everybody. Today is a fabulous day. I am just really excited. My name is Stu Turley. I'm the president and CEO of the Sandstone Group, and we've got a rock star on our show today. I'm going to do the old share my screen here, and it's going to be just a second here. I think that we are going to have some fun, and then I'm going to introduce Alma in just a second. And here we go.
There's a lot of people running around that don't stay the night, never come through town. And some other people running about that don't take the time to suss you out. Still some of us every night we make a toast to you, like isn't it nice that somebody had the presence of mind to speak up for you. Let there be light.
Tell you what, Alma, thank you. We have Alma Cook, and I've just been chit-chatting with her for a few minutes. And welcome, Alma. We are so thrilled to have you on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Stu. I'm really glad to be here.
There's a couple things. You are a girl from LA, is that right?
Well, I have kind of like a circuitous journey, shall we say. So I'm from Wisconsin originally. I went to school in Chicago. I was a music major for vocal performance. And then I ended up moving to LA for music. And through some job loss and other life drama, I ended up going back and forth between Los Angeles and Williston, North Dakota. Ultimately, that balance fell more in the favor of Williston, and that's now where I consider my home. I'm officially moving my stuff out of storage in LA in just a few weeks here.
Now,
so
you've been up there and you've got your own company, your own oil and gas company.
Well, I wouldn't say that I have an oil and gas company in the sense that I'm a personal oil producer. That would be, I would be a much wealthier woman if that were the case. but as you know, Stu, and as I'm sure many of your listeners know, the oil and gas economy is made up of service providers who are often very small, one-person companies, 20-person companies, 100-person companies, and the oil and gas operators, the BPs and the Shells and the Exxons who actually own the asset. But the service providers are the ones providing the service. And I'm the one who helps mediate that. I'm kind of a marriage counselor between the service provider and the operator.
I've never heard anybody called a marriage counselor in the oil patch. So that one, you ought to see that on your truck, because in your video, your hard hat that is a very cool picture in the video that you've got your hard hat on. What does Cook do? What do you do out there in the patch? Besides being you just go out there and you marry up everybody?
Well, a marriage counselor's job is to keep the peace, right? So perhaps things aren't always so healthy in these marriages. We can get a little bit more into that later. But first of all, thank you for the compliment about the hard hat. I really enjoyed shooting.
I'm just jealous of your hair. I'm going to leave,
I do have quite a bit of hair. You could have some if you'd like. But basically what I do, as I said, so I'm sitting in the gap between the service providers and the operators. Every time a service provider works for a BP or a Shell's lawyers are like, oh, we don't want to get sued if something goes wrong on site. Like if a guy sprains his ankle or loses an arm or loses an eye or God forbid dies, Shell doesn't want any of that liability to fall on them. And so every single contractor and every single subcontractor of those subcontractors has to apply all of these layers of liability protection, whether that's safety training, whether that's insurance, whether that's written programs, whether that's certain acknowledgement form. I could list like 100 different things that sometimes entails, and it's different for every operator. So hello, complexity. So I help decode some of that for the service provider because they're just trying to get a job done. They're just trying to work. But Billy the welder, he grew up on a farm. He's not exactly like hip to the latest software. He's not interested in pushing a lot of paper around. Right. It's not that he's too dumb to do so. He just has better things to do because he didn't get into the business of welding so that he could become a compliance management chick like me. So I handle that grunt work for them. Sometimes it's more administrative where I'm going through and seeing, okay, what's important? What boxes can I check that I know I can legally check? Sometimes it's a negotiating. Like yesterday, I'm helping a buddy or a client of mine, excuse me, he's also a buddy, but a client of mine talk down the insurance requirements that are being asked of him. And sometimes it's an educator's role where I'm like, hey, Billy, this is what TRIR means. This is what a DART rate is. This is what an EMR is and how you request it.
Right. Now, when you sit back and you kind of go, I'm going to do, did I get your compliance person, but you're not a safety man on the tailgate. And forgive me, safety person on the, because everybody hates the safety man.
Everyone hates them.
Everybody hates them, but you're a compliance person.
Yeah. So safety and compliance they overlap. Compliance encompasses so many different things. Some of them are actually very operational focused rather than safety. Is insurance a safety issue? Well, I don't know. Sometimes it can be, depending on what you're insuring and what kind of loss you're experiencing that you have to make a claim on. But compliance encompasses more that. So it's safety and many other things. And sometimes I am on the ground. I mean, like I've walked clients through various inspections. I help them with audits. I do build safety training resources for them. But because in part, I'm also a musician, 50% of the time, yep. I have to be very careful how I'm, weighing the opportunity cost of spending time on the ground.
Right. I'll tell you, it's kind of cool. I'm a musician 50% of the time, and I never would have thought when I graduated college that I'd go, I'm a podcast host, 50% of the time.
I know, so, who could imagine? Like technology enables us to do so many things, Stu.
Oh, unbelievable. Your music career, and you just released the 5,000 Candles last week. Is that right?
I did. 5,000 Candles is a new song and music video that just came out last week.
I'll tell you, I love the video. If you can't tell, I'm just as excited about the video and getting to visit with you and know everything about you. The important thing is the oil and gas folks who provide low cost energy to the United States are unsung heroes. And that's one of the things that I really liked about your video. Tell us about why you wrote 5,000 Candles.
Sure. Well, as you know, Stu, as you said, the men and women who work in the oil and gas industry, let's be real, they're usually men, and that's perfectly fine. They are kind of caught up in this PR battle, this political, they just become a political talking point. They become this laugh line or applause line. They get called rednecks. They are misunderstood for whatever education they have or don't have.
Right.
And what I realized quickly when I fell into the oil and gas play in the Bakken by complete accident was that, oh gosh, there's all these things that I thought were true about this group of people that are really not true. Oh, and by the way, everything in our lives depends on petrochemicals. So the paint on your wall, the fertilizer that makes your food, fertilizer is made from natural gas. What? Who knows that?
Right.
Natural gas to pull nitrogen out of the air and then poof.
Your podcast microphone.
Exactly. Every bit of music equipment on stage was powered by oil and gas. And so it's very funny to me when people in the pop culture sphere will malign this entire industry, including the hardworking people therein, when every bit of equipment they're using relies on the resources that we're extracting out of the ground. And so I really wrote the song to celebrate a group of people that I didn't feel was adequately celebrated. And I wanted to do it in a way that wasn't hokey and wasn't corporate, but was really a sincere love song, rather than just some kind of ideological anthem trying to get people to change their minds about something.
Now, that guitar that is in the lead is not a normal guitar, is it? What kind of is that little instrument? I mean, you've got such that neat little rhythm in there. How did you write that with that, if that makes sense?
Sure. So let me actually bring my instrument down for just a second. I don't play guitar myself, but what I do play is baritone ukulele, which is like the highest 4 strings of a guitar. Now this looks like a guitar because it has a guitar's body. This is a tenor guitar. It's
Okay.
just like a guitar with a little cheat code because it has fewer strings, and it's effectively the same as a baritone. So
Okay.
I wrote that riff, that da 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 riff, basically because there's only 4 strings here, and I wanted to develop a rhythm that wasn't just like strumming. I just was trying to give it a little bit of texture.
Give us a few of those.
Oh gosh, I don't think that I'm in tune, Stu. I'll have to take you up on that another time.
I'm tone deaf, so it's okay.
Perfect. We're a good team then.
Oh my goodness.
The guitar you see in the video is different from the one that was in the studio.
Okay.
Everybody's lip syncing in a music video, and everyone's just miming their instrument. So it's actually a different gentleman who's playing on the track than you see on the screen.
Okay.
But yeah, they did a really good job, I thought, of taking my very primitive ukulele part and turning it into something that was more whole sounding.
It was not a old steel guitar. I mean, it was something different, and I did not know what it was, but I could tell through my tone deaf ears that it was something different. So,
yeah, I think it's an electric. I think it's but I can ask for you what make and model it was.
Well, it just sounded absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
So if you've got this, you're a rare beast, if you don't mind me saying this. And that is you own your own company. You're in the oil industry acting as a marriage counselor between everybody that is having all of these issues. And then you're also a musician, LA and traveling all around. What got you started in the oil patch? We hadn't talked about that yet.
Sure. So fresh out of college, I took a remote position working as a copy editor, meaning I was a professional grammar Nazi. And it was a remote job.
Did you say grammar Nazi?
Yes, professional grammar Nazi. I've always had a knack for style and grammar, and just kind of an intuition for it. Some of our brains are just built for those types of patterns. So I was working as a copy editor. I thought that I was going to be in this job forever, Stu, because it suited my personality really well. The remote nature of the position enabled me to travel and tour and play festivals and whatnot. But one day when I was actually driving to a music festival that I was playing, this was several years ago, I got a call from my supervisor saying, I really don't want to deliver this news to you, Alma, but the company has decided to separate. And this was for a whole host of reasons that I shouldn't get into today. I have nothing but love for that company looking back. And I actually hired my former supervisor today. So I kind of poached her, and now she's part of my team. So no way, right? But yeah, so I thought my world was ending. Remote positions, maybe a dime a dozen today, Stu, but back then it was very rare to have a work from home job.
When is she giving her 2-week notice? Because I don't want this podcast releasing.
Right.
Just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah. God help us all. So I got fired from this gig that I thought I would be in for. I had been in the position for 5 years, and I thought my world was over. So I just, was moping around, doing a lot of crying, doing a lot of soul searching. I remember when I got up on stage to even play that festival that I was driving to, I was in tears, and everyone thought that I was just so moved by my music, but I was like so scared of the future was what was happening. But then I sent a text to a family friend of mine who my brother had met when he studied abroad in Thailand in like 2007 or something like that. It's the craziest story. This gentleman just became a family friend. He happened to be from Williston, North Dakota. And because he was from Williston and there was a lot happening in that region during the 2010 period, he ended up starting a safety company of his own. And when I texted him after this job loss, he's like, well, Alma, it's funny you say that. There's one remote position at our company, and it just opened up this week because the guy left. So in like a miraculous twist of fate, 4 days after I was fired from my copy editor role, I was hired as a compliance manager in an industry that I knew nothing about.
I'll tell you, I'm a little nervous because when we put the podcast out, we put them out on our Energy News Beat website, and then you're going to be critical of the way that it's authored. So I'm going to be very, very scared when we drop this podcast.
From a grammar and style standpoint, I was like, no, did I say something wrong?
Yeah, I'm just going to be very, very nervous because
not a problem, Stu. I'm very good at turning that switch off in my daily life. But I will say, I think the copy editor skill set works very well as a compliance chick because there's a lot of detail orientation in both. So I've just repurposed the skills.
That is so fun. Now, is your family up there in where you're at now?
Not my blood family, but one reason I've spent more and more time there over the last several years is because some of my closest friends live there. I've just developed really close relationships. So I don't have any family in North Dakota. We're all in Wisconsin. My brother's in Pennsylvania. And my fiance actually is in Houston. So I'm geographically very complicated, Stu.
I hear that.
But I have all the community that I need up there, and it's the best home that I've ever had.
Okay, a couple questions. If your brother is in Pennsylvania, is he in the oil patch in the Marcellus?
No, good question, Stu. He's actually an economics professor at Penn State.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. And if he hadn't opened my mind toward libertarian economics, I probably wouldn't have been in oil and gas in the first place and seen the romance in capitalism and industry. So I should give him credit for at least part of the story.
All right, here's another one. Your financee or your financee, that's the way we say it in Texas, is your financee. He's in Houston. That's an oil town. Is he in the oil industry?
He is adjacent to it. David is the very smartest person I know in the entire world. And I mean it, like the smartest person I've ever personally met. And he just got his master's degree in earth science systems. He's a geology undergrad. So there's quite a bit of potential for him to work in oil and gas if he should desire that. But right now he actually works for a startup called B Carbon, which is developing a private carbon market for oil companies that wish to offset emissions and cater to these new ESG standards that are emerging. But what's funny about B Carbon is they're so data driven and very, very rigorous about how they measure emissions and so forth, but they're really focused on biodiversity and benefits that have nothing to do with these metrics that everybody's chattering about in the public sphere. It's all about, okay, how can we preserve topsoil better? How can we enrich? So they're smuggling in beautifully all of these really amazing environmental benefits under the guise of this market that is a hot topic, but maybe not what's most important to the environment.
Well, one of the things I've always said is there is no ESG without accountability. So it'll be kind of interesting to hear from David on how that turns around. Let's see, a compliance officer in an ESG company working on carbon offsets. Y'all got to have some real exciting dinner topics coming up around the corner here.
Oh yeah, I mean, we already have the most fun dinners already. He's such a bright guy, and I love the people who work at that company. I wouldn't say that they're an ESG company per se. I mean, you and I know that ESG brings forth very mixed emotions in people in the industry. And I'm no friend to ESG myself. ESG, I see the way it hurts my own clients, these very small mom and pop companies that can't keep up with these bizarre standards. And as nice as it is in theory, and we all want to protect and conserve the environment in theory, I don't know that ESG is the way to get there. So I would put them in a little different boat than ESG company, but they're certainly, making the ESG people happy for whatever reason.
It's why I say there is no ESG with accountability, because you can go out there and go, I'm ESG friendly, and have nothing going on.
Nothing. And it's the same as from a compliance standpoint. So that's just like, the environmental standpoint. When you look at the social and the governance, I mean, I always tell people all the time, you could kill a guy on site and I could still make you look compliant on paper. I know how to do it. I know how to do it. I wouldn't because that's betraying the ethics that I hold in what I do. And it's utterly morally reprehensible to misrepresent.
I cannot let you around my wife. If she heard anything like that, and she'd say, okay, she'd check my insurance to make sure my life insurance was up. I could see a Mafia movie coming out of this thing. So please, you're not going to
compliance Mafia. Yeah. But that's all just to your point, Stu, that there's a lot of paper being pushed around, and sometimes it's an accurate reflection of what's happening on the ground, and many, many times it's not.
So, if you're hiring people, you must be scaling Cook. And so as you grow and try to go, where is Cook, your company going? What's going on with it?
So I don't know that scaling is actually in the wings for me, Stu. And I can already hear some of my really business savvy friends like wincing across the country when I say this. But the reality is that I'm getting married in August, and I'm marrying a Catholic, so babies are probably very imminent. And I really value,
You think?
yeah, that's just how they do things. And I really value, being hands-on with my friends and my future spouse and family. So I would, as much as I would love to stay not only in the thick of the business, but growing it, I
Right.
don't know that that's wise considering the rest of my life. So far I've really enjoyed keeping things boutique, not just for the reasons I mentioned, but because I can give my clients the most hands-on experience that they've ever received in this area. And I take a lot of pride in that. So, I mean, I am growing and I am hiring, and I am, needing more and more help by the day. But I don't think that it's an exponential growth. I think we'll probably, cap our client base at some point and even make it a little bit more exclusive and say, hey, we're not taking new clients right now. You'll have to get in line, which is kind of invigorating in its own way.
Oh, that is cool. My daughter, we just had our first grandchild. And so I'm just in hog heaven with my grandson.
Of course.
Yeah. She is a professional as well, too. So you're still going to be running your own company and doing your own song and being a mom. So I wouldn't hold that, you can do all of that these days.
It would be fun. It would be fun, but it's easy to say that from the outside, and I really just have to see what the future holds before I make that call. But I am trying to get my company to a point where it can run itself with very minimal involvement from me, so that my clients can still be taken care of, and I don't have to drop anybody, because that's the worst case scenario, right? Is having to make everybody find a new compliance chick.
Compliance chick. I'm glad you said that, because I can't, not in this day and age.
I give you permission, Stu.
Okay,
you're allowed.
Compliance chick. Yeah, because HR would be calling up here in just a minute and saying, hey, wait a minute. Well, this is all exciting, because women need to be able to have kids, have a quality of their life that they choose, and own a company. It is totally all doable together. My daughter is an example of that as well, too. I'm very proud of her.
That's really cool to hear.
But none of us in our family have any musical talent. So, that's why we appreciate music.
Oh, well, thanks, Stu. I'm glad.
So when are you coming out with an album, though?
It should be later this year. I've learned better than to make strong predictions about specific dates, but I'm actually in LA currently, working on mixing, and we have our next session. I think our next mixing session is Thursday. So pretty soon here. I've been sitting on these songs for a long time. 5,000 Candles is on the album, but it's not really representative of the style of the album per se. It's similar. It's the same flavor, but it's really more of like a live pop R&B record than it is like the live folk Americana that you hear on 5,000 Candles. Still very exciting.
Oh, cool. I can't wait to get it and buy it and everything else. But you're available right now on Apple Podcast, on Apple Music. And so go buy it. It was the best 99 cents I bought, because I'm zipping around the house going, I get to talk to Alma here in a little bit. She's like, would you shut up?
I appreciate that.
And we're going to have all of your information and everything in the show notes. And we just are so excited you stopped by the Energy News Beat podcast today. So thank you very much, Alma. And you are going to just do absolute wonderful things around the corner.
Thank you so much, Stu. I really appreciate that.
Thanks.